ladies and gentlemen. Alex here, your coach, your host. And I'm excited to share my spiritual journey with you all. For those of you who have been following me for quite some time, you will know that I have not shared my spiritual journey yet, and I've been getting a lot of requests to do so. So today I feel grounded enough to be in a space to do so, to share with you all what my journey has been and the journey that I'm on right now even. And before I get started, I just want to say thank you to those of you who are new to my channel, those who are new to my content, to this journey that I've been on for, I'd say for the past probably 7 years consistently. But of course, my soul journey has been all my life, right? Being able to reflect on that and realize that it's been all of my life. And we're all in this journey together. We're all in different paths of our journey. And that's really what it comes down to. And what I really want for you to get out of, if you get anything out of this, is that you too are in this journey. And how you continue to evolve will be strictly up to you. Some people miss on that opportunity, and there are others who are called, like myself, to really go further and deeper into this journey of spirituality. And I think that for me, things really started to change when I separated from the Marines. From the active duty in particular. After doing my active duty time, I was going through some very emotional and very mental challenge during that time because of the separation, but also so many other things were surfacing for me. And unfortunately, I was not in a good headspace. And because I was not in a good headspace, I was at a really low vibrational state. And I was showing up, I was married at the time, and I was showing up for my partner in a really poor way, in a really poor manner. And I was in a place of darkness, if you will. And so that resulted ultimately in my partner, my wife at the time, wanting to get a divorce. And, you know, at that time, I was feeling really, really angry and lost, and there's pain. And of course, I didn't know really at the time what was going on with myself. And I think a lot of people experience this sometimes. You know, we go through things in life and we do our best to push forward with the tools that we are given, which there aren't many, although that's changing, right? But at the time for me, I didn't feel like I had a lot of tools to help me navigate these hurdles, this pain, these thoughts, and what felt like this nightmare. And so I don't blame my ex-wife for her wanting to leave the relationship, because she also was struggling through her own challenges. She was dealing with and grieving with a loss in her family that was very impactful to her. And she also did not have the support, not from me and not from really anybody else. So she was doing the best that she could. I think we both were. And after that, she tried to fix things with me, but I was too much in my ego and very much of a Leo state, and I did not want to really have anything to do with her after she had already said that she wanted to divorce me. It's almost as if I became even more into my pain body, and I resented her. And so that happened, and it really hurt. And I'll never forget that day when she said that she didn't want to be with me anymore. It was so painful. And unfortunately, I took that pain and I fed that pain that was already feeling. I was feeling pain already, and that was in another layer, the pain that I was already in. And it only made me at an even lower vibrational state. And I was really nasty. I did not handle that very well. And to this day, I do not blame her for anything. Of course, I had to later understand what this healing process would be, and also the damage in which I had done to her. And the saying that people say that hurt people hurt others, it's very true. And I was living at this moment in that state. And so as that happened, and I was separating from the Marines, and everything was sort of just, the weight of the world, if you will, at the time felt heavy in my shoulders and my chest. And I resorted to drinking. I resorted to avoiding the pain or dealing with it in an unhealthy way, because I was in such a low vibrational state. And I made some poor choices along the way. Some choices that I would really be really unproud of later as I reflected. Choices that I had to come to terms with later on. But I was just in my pain body, and the darkness was all that I saw. And one day, I remember drinking about a bottle of whiskey or so. And I was tired of either feeling anger or just feeling numb. I just wanted to almost feel numb in a way. And I felt like I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I got in my car. It was very late at night. And I was going to drive somewhere. I didn't know where. I didn't have a destination. Just wanted to go for a drive. And I finally said, you know what? It's time for me to go. And I just remember wanting to smash my car to a pole. And attempting it, and then snapping out of that and really breaking down. And that's when I broke down, when I reached my limit and I surrendered to the light. I surrendered to my pain, and I just let everything out. I let everything out. I was bawling, and I was just feeling it all, and I just remember crying and crying and crying and feeling so lonely, feeling so exhausted, but at the same time relieved in a way. And I went home that night, showered, went to sleep, and I woke up the next day feeling differently, like a shift inside of me. And the shift was that I needed to change, that I needed to snap out of this. I remember getting up and going to my bathroom and looking at myself dead in the eyes and saying to myself, this is enough. You need to get out of this. You need to rise above this. You need to change the way you think about this. And you've gone through so much in your life, and you've been able to overcome so much. So don't give up now. It's time to change. And I remember that it was a very emotional conversation that I had with myself, and that I have never really looked at myself that deep in the eyes before. And for the first time, I was looking at myself, and I was looking at the person that I had become. But at the same time, the reflection, in that reflection, I was also receiving that conversation from the person who I really was deep inside of me. My higher self came at that moment and delivered that message through me. And it was at that moment that I realized that this feeling that I had was not mine, that I had taken and held and stored so much pain from others throughout my life that it became mine, but it was never mine, and that I needed to let it go, that in order to be at peace, that I needed to come to terms with it, come to peace with it. And so that is when my journey truly begun. And when I came to realize that the person that I was feeling of these feelings of hatred and pain and anger and sorrow was not me. It was not who I was deep in the core, at the core. And so I went to the beach that day, and intuitively I started to receive this message, sort of a thing like, you should go and get a notebook and a pen and go sit at the beach. And so I did. I was living in California during this time, and I went to Dana Point, and there's this area there where you can sit at a bench that oversees the ocean, and you're surrounded by flowers, and there's some cliffs, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. And I went there, and I sat there, and I was feeling the breeze of the ocean in my face. And I remember taking a deep breath, just feeling the cool air cool the inside of my body. Breathing out felt so emotional. Feeling that breeze from the ocean on my face. Feeling almost supported and just embraced by the ocean. At the same time, there was a subtle warmth from the sun. And I just remember just sitting there with my eyes closed and just listening to the waves crashing, feeling the wind, the sun, feeling the earth beneath my feet as I had taken off my shoes, again intuitively, and simply just placed my feet on the ground. And I felt something so special that day. It was a feeling of unconditional love. But I didn't know that at the time, because I didn't really know what unconditional love was. But it was so emotional, and I started to just feel again. And I would spend an hour and a half, 2, 3 sometimes, and I would just go and sit there. And after 15, 20, 30 minutes, maybe I would write something that would come up. I would let my mind show me whatever it wanted to talk about, and simply just listen. I recognized and realized that I'd been fighting my mind for so many years. That much like any other relationship, sometimes we just need to listen. And so I just listened without judgment, without any agenda. I just listened. I listened to the thoughts, and at first there were so many thoughts. There was a pool of thoughts that it seemed almost impossible to relax. But the more I allow that space to listen to my mind, the less busy it became, the less loud it became, and things really started to calm down. And I was feeling and processing so much of these things that I just had been fighting with all of my life. Things started to come up from my past, from my childhood. My beliefs and thoughts that I had around my mother and my father. my belief and thoughts that I had around life, around people. My insecurities were so highlighted and brought to the surface. The things that I was doing out of pure insecurities, out of pure pain, out of pure survival sometimes, were becoming so clear. And then I started to realize how that behavior affected other people and how I hurt others because I was hurting. And I just remember feeling so much sadness. At first, I felt ashamed. But it was only momentarily, because I then forgive myself for not knowing. I had compassion for myself for understanding that I was doing the best that I could with what I had learned at the time. That it was okay. That it was okay because now I understood the impact that had. And I shifted from a dark place of darkness, of negativity, of anger, and at one point I would say perhaps even evil, to the light. Things started to look different. Every little work that I would do, every little effort that I would put every single day in a positive way, in forgiveness to myself, forgiveness to those who had hurt me, started to transform a different experience within myself that felt familiar but yet so different. And I'll never forget that, because that was really, really powerful, this feeling, right? And as I kept my journey on, things got better and better. I started to look at things through a positive lens. I started to believe in myself again. I started to show up for myself. I started to build a relationship with myself, a healthy one. Many more challenges would come from the years to come after that, but it was a momentum of evolving, of evolution, of keep rising above the previous vibration, of growth, of expansion. And as the expansion happened, my perspective of life started to change. Flowers started to become different, trees, the sun, the ocean, friends. But there would be more moments of shadows, but not nearly as dark as the one that I had experienced initially. And in those moments, I would learn very profound lessons about my past, about my habits, about things that I was still hanging on to. And now, being a spiritual person, I relied simply on my gut, or what now I call my intuition, in trusting that this voice, this feeling that I have inside me, has actually saved my life in the past, has actually always been right. And upon reflection of my past, I realized that. I came to realize the importance of that. voice, and that I needed to follow it because that voice got me out of the darkness to begin with. That voice told me to let go. And that voice is within all of us. It's within you. And like anything else, the more we provide a space to allow that voice to be heard from us, the more that it can have a voice and becomes more powerful, more pronounced, and the guidance becomes stronger, and the trust and the relationship between yourself and your higher self, it starts to evolve, and you start to evolve. And your idea of wanting to have someone or relying on people starts to shift even more than it may have already been established by you. And a strength that it's very challenging for me to express in words had grown, and it was continuing to grow. It was like a fire, like a flame inside of me that just felt warm and energized and powerful. And I started to really understand myself. Every day, a little bit more, as those insecurities and those unsubtleties would come up. Unsubtlety of feeling uncomfortable sometimes, of being alone, or feeling sad of being alone, but then realizing that I don't need anybody. That the reason why I felt like I needed somebody was because it came from my childhood. And then I embarked in my inner child healing. And that profoundly liberated me from really anchored emotions and trauma that happened in my childhood. And it liberated me. I went from feeling like an elephant was always on my chest to being able to breathe. I went from feeling my mind was foggy and uncertain to clear and peace and peaceful and harmonious. And this healing program that I then perfected it and made it into my own only was for 2 months that I was able to do all those years of damage and heal it and come to peace with it in just a couple of months. And when you heal those wounds, those deep, deep wounds, everything changes. Your face will change. Your energy will change. Your vibration, your thoughts, the way you think, the way you look at things, your lens, your thought process, your compassion, your reality changes dramatically. Because you're elevating into a realm that is so high than where you were before, that the difference is pronounced and significant. That is so new, that is almost as if you experienced that first true love, what you think is true love in your life, or that first feeling of true happiness. but it's constant. And that motivated me. It motivated me, and it started to unlock abilities, tools, gifts that I didn't even know I had. I started to realize that I was very connected and very compassionate and very gifted in understanding people because I had been to the darkness and I had been able to leave that dark place. And in that perspective, and in that growth, and in that elevation, and in that transcendency, the multi-layers of vibration that I had gone through, each felt a very different way. And it gave me a very profound feeling of what it felt like to be at those vibrational states. And I would start to then feel people's vibration. Unknowingly at first for a while. Because I was already exposed to it. So I knew it was a familiar feeling, but I just didn't know that that's what it was. It's almost the same thing as if you experienced something before, such as, let's just say, college. That's a pretty standard one. And the process of learning, it's familiar for you. The classroom setting is familiar to you. So then when you are put in a room that it was not named a classroom, or you didn't know you were going to be teaching there, or learning rather, but you were just put in there and the same setting was replicated, your mind would already know, and it would associate that with, it's time to learn. This is familiar. It was almost like that, but from a vibrational stance. I could just feel people that were walking around in such low vibrations, and then ones that were walking around in really high vibrations, and I could see their auras and them just shining. Their energy was shining. It was a beautiful experience, but it was overwhelming. And I was still rebellious to some old habits and ways of thinking, and it would take some falling down and hitting my head on the ground to wake me up to realize what I was doing and the way I was living, to overcome that. But I did it. And the more I was accepting of that, and the more when these moments where I would have these breakdowns would happen, and I would really just go back to what I learned from the beginning, is just to listen, surrender, feel all the emotions. Don't blame others, don't get angry, don't do any of those things, but just listen and feel what you're feeling, recognize it, accept it, and then let it go. Forgive yourself, forgive others, and look to the positive of that opportunity that has been presented to you, the opportunity to learn from that, to change that narrative, to create a different experience for the future by shifting the mindset of that experience, in which had happened in other ways before. And you see, then I became to realize that we are like a CD, like an album, like a music album with tracks. And the only way to go to the next track for a different experience of that album for a different song is for us to allow the album to play. In other words, when we allow ourselves to be in the process of the universe, when we appreciate the lessons of that track, of that stage in our lives, and we surrender, we can then move to the next one and experience a whole different track and a whole different experience and evolve from that and keep going and going and going and going. But by the time you are getting close to the end of the album, you've already kind of have a feel for it, and you probably already know which track was your favorite. Maybe you already know which one it is. There's one in particular, right? And that sometimes can be certain chapters, in our lives, right? Where we always kind of go back to and ruminate a little bit. But just remember that there are multiple albums in our lives, and they're all just amazing. And there's always going to be one or two or a handful of different tracks within each album that were our favorites. And those tracks are memories. And so I was mesmerized by this, and I was truly humbled. And as my journey continued and more and more and more, and I went through different phases of my life where I was into the material world. I was living in LA, and I was very much into that. I was having abundance, and something kind of shifted for me at one point when I was working at Google, and I felt like, wow, I finally made it. You know, I'm where I want to be financially, career-wise, and everything. But I felt like something was missing. And it was such an uncertainty, a feeling of uncertainty. And there was almost like as if me being there was something that I was forcing. After a certain time, I started to feel even stronger about this. I started to feel like I can't do this anymore. But I don't know what am I supposed to do, and why am I feeling this way? And so I decided to explore that, to listen to those questions and to get answers. And at this time I was meditating. By this time I also failed to mention that I picked up meditation when I started my initial journey after my divorce. And it really helped me a lot, especially to understand and have a better relationship with my mind. And I went and took a month to pretty much really think about things. And I realized that my passion was helping people, was of being of service. And I didn't really know how I was going to do that, but I just knew that that's what I was called to do. That was my purpose, my true purpose on this earth. And so after digging and really thinking about things, I realized that I came across a life coach. And I'm like, oh, what is this? I didn't even know what it was before. And then I realized that that's what I wanted to do. That I wanted to share my growth, connect people, help them reach their goals, help them understand that life it's a series of obstacles that are there to help us evolve, to help us connect with our higher selves, to help us connect with our purpose, to help us understand that this ecosystem that we've created as humans it's a broken ecosystem. And because it is a broken ecosystem, that we feel broken at times. And that it was my responsibility to share with people that there is a system that it's better. And that everything we need is inside of us. That we just need to learn how to connect with ourselves, to improve our relationships with our ego, and allow ourselves to connect with our spiritual self, with our higher self. To connect to the ecosystem of Mother Earth, of the universe. And in doing so, we are now in a much more balanced ecosystem. And we are able to take more control of our lives. That we are able to make the most out of our lives because we understand what it means to be a human. What it means to be here on this earth, on this universe. And to me, that was so clear, so pronounced. And things happened in a way in which I ended up leaving Google, in a way in which it helped me do what I am doing now as a life coach. Although I don't really like to call myself a life coach, I just as a teacher. And embark on an even deeper spiritual journey. And now I'm in a space in my life where I understand even more. I walk around and there isn't a day that I go outside and I take a deep breath and I'm thankful for that breath. There isn't a day that I look around and I see the flowers, the trees, even the weeds, and recognize and realize that they are alive. That everything is alive. That we don't own this earth, that we share it with so many other living creatures in life. There isn't a day that I ever stop being grateful for the beautiful and wonderful people in my life. There isn't a day in which I am mesmerized by what the universe continues to give me and how there's an infinite amount of growth, in that it's not scary or exhausting, but exciting and really just amazing. And I started to realize I'm in a point now where I see things differently. I see them as energy, as vibration. I see them as one. That we are all just one. That we're all connected. Every single one of us is just connected. And in this realization, I'm able to tap into love and peace and understand that unconditional love is real. But it's not something that it is experienced from another human being. But in order to truly understand it, it is experienced within us. And from that place, we see where it is present all around us. But in order for you to see that, you have to climb up the ladder and see that. To see that at that level. And the higher I keep rising, the more in which I steer away from wishing wrong upon people, the more I steer away from even those that are coming at me, or maybe someone is, being aggressive or violent or whatever. I realize and I see them for the pain that they're in. And I put a stop to it. I don't continue to pass on that pain. I don't take it like I used to and project it back to them or project it back to other people, because that only continues to pass that pain. And so many people around the world are doing that. And I said, any pain that comes to me, it stops with me. And I will teach people how to do that. I will teach people that everything that you're feeling can be understood in a peaceful way. And I will teach people that everything that they're confused about and angry about and sad about can be understood in a peaceful way. And that they're not broken. They just are in a broken system that didn't have a choice or say on it. But that there is a better system out there. And so as I continue to meditate and explore other journeys, I started to understand my spirit guides. I started to learn about them. I started to see visions of things. I would see things that at the time didn't make sense, but then I would watch it in a documentary or something like that. And I was realizing that I was getting information from source in my meditations. Then I started to, as I was talking to people, with my clients, that I would start to what now I call channel in information about them. And what that means is I started to receive information about things they've gone through. I started to see this person went through this and this and this and this and this and this. And I never questioned it. I would just simply repeat that to my clients, and they would be like, yes, that is true. How did you know that? And I started to understand things from a much deeper, more profound way. And I just would then experience things that are not explainable, that we don't believe in, right? But I would see these lights, and I still do, these little light beams, and they would connect with me through my dreams and through my meditation. And I started to feel and I started to learn how to manipulate energy and how energy sits in my body and how to move it and how to move energy out of people. And where are the blockages? I started to understand how to tap into the subconscious mind. I started to realize that the body speaks to you. I started to realize that we are a channel, that the soul is in this body as a vessel, as an experience to experience this three-dimensional world. I then started to discover and see that there are other dimensions in which we can travel to, where more information is there. I started to realize and understand that I was here and that I am here to speak to people like you, to share this wisdom, to share this knowledge, so that we may make this world different, so that we may shift it out of this chaos that we've created, this broken ecosystem, so that we may go back to where we belong, where all the other animals and plants and everything that lives on this earth, everything that's living, it belongs to that ecosystem of balance and flow. And we are the only ones who are not playing by that game, by that role, rather. And we are destroying this planet, and we're destroying each other. And we are creating narratives, and we're creating systems that are disabling us mentally, disconnecting us spiritually, and destroying us emotionally. And so there's a lot more that goes into this journey that I've been on and that I am on. But I think we're already at 51 minutes, and I don't want to push too far, make this too lengthy, so maybe I'll do part 2 where I get more in detail about energy work, about light work, my experiences with what we would call other beings, my experiences at an earlier age with dark entities such as ghosts, what we would call ghosts, to then being revealed and shown to me that there's so many different worlds within our world that are coexisting, that there's so much that we don't understand, but it's all available to us. Everything is available to us, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean everything. We just have to be willing to go on that journey, to tap into that space. And so that is what I'm here to do. And I'm going to start to share more of these wisdoms, because I've been guided and told that the time is now. That now it's the time to share this. That my chapter of darkness has ended. And then now I can really shine the light on that by sharing my experience of that darkness and how I went to the light. And so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it interesting, but most importantly, I hope you can have an open mind, and that this encouraged you to, or sparked something in you to want to go, or rather continue on your own journey. And if you're feeling like you're stuck in life, that is not a coincidence. That feeling, it's unsettling and it's unpleasant, because you are not meant to be stuck. You're meant to grow. Your soul is here to grow. Your soul is here to evolve. And these feelings that you have of wanting to do things differently, but being stuck on fear, being stuck on pain and in your own head, are the lessons that you are meant to learn, so you can then master and understand your mind. So you can understand what it means to be connected to yourself, to your higher self, to be connected to this world, to this universe. But it's up to you. There is the freedom of will, and each one of us is given that opportunity to evolve or to stay in a low vibration or in a limited experience in this world. And I just want to leave you with one last thing, and that is that You're a unique human being. That you are a beautiful Homo sapien human being. That you are part of this planet. That you are part of the stars. That you are part of everything. Beyond what you physically can see. Beyond what you can physically feel. There's a whole other world for you to experience that belongs to you, that you belong in. And when you lift the veil, you can experience that. So I hope that you can give yourself that opportunity to experience that and to liberate yourself from your pain and your fears. But it's up to you. All right, my beautiful people, my soul people, please take some time to think about this. And again, thank you so much for sharing your space, your time, your energy with me as I share this journey with you. And again, I just barely highlighted on my journey. I'm going to be talking a lot more about this, how I overcame my fears, how I overcame my insecurities, how I overcame my trauma, and how I overcome any and every challenge that comes my way. That there's a formula in which I follow that always works. And it gets easier and faster to get through things. And I start to learn quicker and more effectively. And I want to teach you all of this so that you may set yourself free and rise your vibration to a higher state. And in doing that, we can change the world in a positive way. But at minimum, we can change your world and your reality into a more empowering, fulfilled, and harmonious way. Until next time, namaste.